ऐसे करो थोड़ा, हाँ उल्टा करो थोड़ा, तो ये थोड़ी गलत, हाँ अब चलेगा।
Connected to OnePlus 3G.
या चुईना नंबर मारी
बंद कर रखा है।
ठीक पेटर्न पे किसी वो तो बुआने में कवर एक पेटी खड़ा कैसे कुछ पैसा ये भी कट शांत नियम कर chanting page 14. Yoso Bhagava Arhan Samma Sambuddho Swakato Yena Bhagavata Dhammo Supatipanno Yassa Bhagavato Savak Sangho Tamayam Bhagavantam Sadhammam Sasangam Ime Sakari Iyatarham Aropitehi Abhijayama Sadhuno Bantu Bhagava Suci Parinidhutopi Pachima Janata Nukampamanasa Ime Sakari Dugat Panaka Prabhute Patiganhatum Amhakam Digratam Hitaya Sukaya Arham Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddham Bhagavantam Abhivademi Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammam Namasami Supatipanno Bhagavato Savak Sangho Sangam Handmayam Buddhasya Bhagavato Ubbhagnamkaram Karumasi Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arhato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arhato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arhato Samma Sambuddhassa Handmayam Buddhanusatinayam Karumasi Tam Kopana Bhagavantam Evam Kalyano Iti Saddo Abhugato Iti Piso Bhagava Arhan Samma Sambuddho Vijacharana Sampanno Sugato Lokavidu Aruttaro Purusadam Sarathi Satthadev Manusanam Buddho Bhagavati Handmayam Buddha Vigiti Karumase Buddhavarhan Bharatadi Gunabhiyuto Suddhamiyana Karunahi Samagatato Bodhisiyo Sujanatam Kamalam Vasuro Vandamaham Tamaranam Sirasajinindam Buddho Yosabapaninam Saranam Khimamuttamam Bhattamanusatithanam Vandamitam Sirenam Buddhasasmidasiva Buddho me sami kissaro Buddhasaham niyadev Sariran jivitan chidam Vandanti am charisami Buddhaseva subodhitam Natti me saranam anya Buddho me saranam varam Etina satya vajjena वड्डेयं सत्तुशासने बुद्धं मे वन्दमानाय यं पुण्यं प्रसुतम् इद सब्बेऽपि अन्तरायामि नाहेषु तस्य तेजसा खण्डमयं धम्मानुसतिनयं करोमसे स्वाखातो भगवता धम्मो सन्दिट्ठिको अकालिको एहिपस्सिको ओपनैको पश्चात्तं वेदितव्यो विन्योहीति अन्वयं धम्माभिगीतिं करोमसे स्वाखाततादिगुणयुगवसेन सेयो यो मग्गपाकपर्यतिविमोकभेदो धम्मो कुलोकपतना तदधारि धारी वन्दामहं तमरं वरधम्ममेतं धम्मो यो सर्वपाणिनं शरणं खेममुत्तमं द्वितीयानुसतिष्ठानं वन्दामि तं शिरेणहं धम्मस्सास्मि दासेव धम्मो मे सामितिस्सरो धम्मस्सहं नियादेमि शरीरं जीवितं चिदं वन्दन्त्यहं चरिष्यामि धम्मस्यैव सुधम्मतं नत्ति मे शरणम् अन्यं धम्मो मे शरणं वरम् एतेन सत्यवज्रेण वड्डेयं सत्तुशासने धम्मं मे वन्दमानाय यं पुण्यं प्रसुतम् इद सब्बेऽपि अन्तरायामि माहेषु तत्सु तेजसा संघो सामीचि पटिपन्नो भगवतो सावक संघो यदिदं चत्तारि पुरुषयुगा अट्ठ पुरुषपुगला एष भगवतो सावक संघो आहुनेयो पाहुने दक्षिणेयो अञ्जलिकरणीयो अनुत्तरं पुण्यकेतु लोकसाकी खण्डमयं संगाभिगीतिं करोमसे सधम्मजो सुपटिपलिगुणादियुतो यो अट्ठविदो आर्यपुगलसङ्गसेठो शीलादिधम्मपवरा कालचेतो वन्दामहं तमर्यान् गणं सुशुद्धं संघो यो सर्वपाणिनं शरणं प्रेममुत्तमम् ततीयानुसतिष्ठानं वन्दामि तं शिरेणं संघस्सास्मि दासीव संघो मे सामितिस्सरो संघस्सहं नियादेमि शरीरं जीवितं चिदं वन्दन्त्यहं चरिष्यामि संघस्सोपटिपन्नतं नत्थि मे शरणम् अन्य संगो मे शरणं वरम् एतेन सच्च वज्जेन सत्तु शासने संघं मे वन्दमानाय यं पुण्यं पसुतं इद सभेऽपि अन्तरायां भीमाये सुन्त सतेजसा पेज 34 मैत्री भावना पर भगवान बुद्ध के वचन। आए हम मैत्री भावना पर भगवान बुद्ध के वचनों का पाठ करें। ऐसा करना चाहिए उसे जो अच्छाई में कुशल है और शांति का मार्ग भली प्रकार जानता है। वह सुयोग्य बने, सरल बने, सुभाषी बने, मृदु स्वभाव वाला और निराभिमानी बने। वह सदा संतुष्ट रहे, उसका पोषण सहज हो, अति व्यस्त न हो, सादगी का जीवन हो, इंद्रियां शांत हों, दक्ष हों, विनीत हों, कुलों में आसक्त न हो। कुछ भी ऐसा न करें जिसे विज्ञ जन बुरा कहें। सदैव यही मैत्री भाव रहे, सभी प्राणी सुखी हों, क्षेम युक्त हों। जो भी प्राणी स्थावर हों या जंगम, सभी बड़ी, महान, मध्यम या छोटी देहधारी हों, सूक्ष्म हो अथवा स्थूल, दृश्य हो या अदृश्य, दूर रहते हो या पास, उत्पन्न हो या उत्पन्न होने वाले हो, सभी प्राणी सुखी हो। एक दूसरे को धोखा न दे, किसी से घृणा न करे, क्रोध या वैमनस्य से एक दूसरे के दुख की कामना न करे। जैसे एक माता अपने जीवन की परवाह किए बगैर अपने इकलौते पुत्र की रक्षा करती है, उसी प्रकार वह अपने मन में सभी प्राणियों के प्रति अपरिमित मैत्री भाव बढ़ाए। सभी लोगों के प्रति अपरिमित मैत्री भावना करे। ऊपर नीचे, आड़े तिरछे, बिना किसी बाधा के, बिना वैर और शत्रुता के, चाहे खड़ा हो या चलता, बैठा या लेटा, जब तक तंद्रा विहीन है, इस स्मृति को बनाए रखें। इसे ही ब्रह्म विहार कहते हैं। इस प्रकार वह मैत्री भावना करने वाला किसी मिथ्या दृष्टि में नहीं पड़ता, शील व सम्यक दृष्टि से संपन्न हो जाता है। कामनाओं के प्रति आसक्ति को हटाकर पुनः गर्भ में नहीं आता।
We'll now listen to today's Desana. It is actually a question answer session on the discourses by Mr. Rodney Smith.
my cues from the cameraman that I can start. So we've covered a lot. 40 talks. I've said something. And the image that came tonight, I was standing and just thinking about where we have gone and where we are at this moment in the relationship to these four foundations. I thought of the optical illusion that we're all very familiar with, and I think it's there's a single picture that if you look at it one way, it's an older woman, and if you look at it another, I think it's a candle holder or something like that. And it depends on where you focus as to what you see. And you can't see both of them at the same time. And everyone know this? Okay. So whatever you're focusing on seems complete and to exclude the other possibility when it's being focused on. It's a very interesting phenomenon, really, because when you see the older woman, the whole field holds that particular subject matter. Now, how this ties into the talks, or where we are within the talks, is that most of us, for most of our lives, have been focused on the forms of the world, the expressions of objects within the world, of forms. And they have garnered our attention because there's a lot that we want from those forms. Both psychological needs we have that we need from other forms, but also in terms of our desires or fears or aversions of other forms we want to possess or avoid. And when we have that kind of relationship, we see only one part of the picture. We see the old woman only. And it's impossible for us to include another possibility. And it holds its own logic, its own purpose, its own intention. That form expresses itself within the world with its own logic, with its own rationale. And our culture is devoted to that particular expression of form. Now, what I am encouraging us to do is to hold the opportunity that there may be something else. There may be a candle holder that we can see. And it's a little hard now to talk about the formlessness, because formlessness isn't a candle holder. It's the absence of form. But it holds the same analogy works. So if we divest from what we have wanted our life to be about and all of the neediness we have to make form and to make it work for our life, you see what we're up against. We're up against our entire purpose and meaning. We're up against everything that we've invested within our life to make it successful through form. And so it takes an awful lot of insight and investigation and understanding for that energy to be extracted, and it can't be extracted just because you want it to be extracted, because that's the strategy that held the form to form. It has to be extracted because we no longer see that what we invested in is worth the investment. Or said differently, that the forms that we have hoped for our salvation aren't going to provide it. And there are lots of ways in Buddhism that we do that. We do this by showing you the impermanence of form, because form can only be invested in if there's a kind of guarantee that it's going to be a salvation for some lasting period of time. But when you start looking at what form is up close and personal, you see that it's in transition, it's transient. So that's one of the ways we do it. The other way, there are many ways. Another way is that you begin to see that the forms are mind-created, that we have made form through our memory and acknowledgement, through our history, what it is. And the worth of what it is has come from us. It's not intrinsic in the form itself. And so in some way we've been chasing our own minds when we've been chasing the form. And we saw this in the second foundation because we understood that the value we were giving for them was coming from our sense of feeling tone. We were investing it within that. And so there's a flaw in our rationale, and the flaw is that form doesn't work. It only works when we are in a massive denial that there's anything wrong with form. And we have to do that. We have to arrange things so precariously. The culture, everybody else has to buy into what we're doing. We have to project out all the dissatisfaction we have with forms onto circumstances and blame it on the boss or the barking dog or whatever it is. And that way we can keep our little cornered area of the lawn intact and not recognize the flaw that is inherent in this overloaded investment. You see? It's warped. It's the tire's flat and we're still trying to drive on it. So what these foundations do is they divest from the form that we have lived our life for, and they reinvest it in the candle holder. They want to see if there's something else that can be seen or sensed, a felt sense, in our bodies when we're not giving our life over to the pursuit of other objects. And lo and behold, we begin to sense that. We begin to sense that something else takes its place when we aren't just looking at the old woman. And lo and behold, the candlestick starts to arise. In the words of the fourth foundation, it's awareness, presence. We sense it. And that begins to stir our interests. Because the flaw that was inherent in keeping things being what they were was that part of ourselves was never actualized, was never touched, was never really approached. And that's our hearts. Our hearts were never touched within the world of objects. And we're longing and desperate and thirsty for our hearts, for the quenching of our heart. And so as we divest from the world of objects, we get flooded with a sense of intimacy, love, compassion. Joy is an expression of love. Lots of the qualities that we call, or all of the qualities that we call the paramis, are qualities that arise when we have begun to see the other half of the picture. No longer everything is the old woman. There's the candle holder as well. Now what happens that's very important here, and we'll talk about it later, but I just want to briefly mention it, is that we can now divest completely from the world of objects and invest completely in the world of formlessness. Now we only see the candlestick. We no longer see the older woman. And we're as lost in that picture, or can be as lost, because now we're spiritually lost, and we can be more fixed in our spiritual lostness than we ever could in our worldly sense, because they were higher than everybody else. We see things that no one else sees. Everything else is an illusion. How can you take that as being the truth? Don't you see it's an illusion? And it gets hideous. In the same way, because we're only investing in one half of the picture. Right? That's not freedom. Freedom isn't on the left side, it's not on the right side. When we're not looking for the candlestick and we're not looking for the older woman, both of those forms come in and out. The form and the formlessness comes in and can be used. And can be used usefully within whatever is called for within and appropriate within the moment. But when we are when nothing is called for, we don't have to hold anything to be anything. We don't have to make anything a candlestick or an older woman. And it's within that neitherness that true liberation arises. And you can see that when you look at that optical illusion. See if you can, don't try, because as soon as you try you'll see one or the other. But if you relax your gaze and just look at the ink blot that's in front of you, rather than trying to pull something out of that ink blot, you can let it all come back together again. You know, it's very interesting that quantum mechanics has that as its premise, that an object remains a possibility until it is seen, until there is consciousness. Consciousness makes the wave pattern into an object. It crystallizes it out. Consciousness does it. This is science. This is not whimsical mysticism. This is science. And there are many experiments that have proven just that. And it's exactly the same thing, really, that is the equation of freedom within our own life. Now, most of us are somewhere or other on that duality. Either we are still invested in form and we'd like to have the older woman, but we'd like to have the older woman younger. Right? Or prettier. Right? But we see the older woman and we always see the old woman, but we're trying to do everything we can to beautify. All right? So that's where most of us are. And we want our meditation to beautify the figure, to make it prettier, to make it younger, to make it more flexible, I don't know, whatever. And some of us have sensed this other possibility of the candlestick, and it seems very interesting, and we're beginning to sense that that can be an alternative to just the forms that we have seen. And so hopefully we're being able to move over, because the spiritual, the sacred, is not held within the form. The form is just the form. It's the mind. It's like billiard balls. Most people don't have religious experience playing pool. But but within the spaciousness, the heart space, now the sacred can arise. Now you can feel something. Oh, whoa. Okay. So that, I just wanted to give that as a brief introduction to the question and answers tonight, so that people can get a sense of where this moves and perhaps stimulate some questions from there. So, anyone? Yes, sir. Yes, the question is, can I distinguish between mindfulness and active awareness? Or just awareness? We're given mindfulness as our duty and purpose, aren't we? It's our exercise, it's our instructions from day one. And we get very serious about it, and we try to bring a lot of intentionality to our mindfulness, and we begrudge it when we can't be mindful throughout the day, and we try to make our day laced with all mindfulness, as much mindfulness as we possibly can, and we do all sorts of tricks to try to get our attention continuous so that we can be continuously mindful. And if we're honest, we fail. Every one of us. Because you can't possibly sustain awareness. Because the presence of a sense of a person, object formed, is the absence of awareness. And so no matter how much you try to be aware, and you can have some awareness, you have to get out of the way of it. And so but as soon as a thought takes over, awareness is gone. Your mindfulness is kaput. So you'll be walking down the street and you'll be very with your body in motion, and life seems so easy, and then a car will honk at you and you go, that son of a... And where is it? It's gone. Because within the arising of that thought, we've invested back into form, and therefore the formlessness is lost. We only see the old woman. You see? And we try and we try and we try, and we get pretty good. I mean, it's not that it can't be a very useful practice. It is a very useful practice in sitting and walking. But what it really does is that it begins to show us insightfully the limitation of form that we never had. Until we're aware or apply awareness through mindfulness, we don't know that there's any limitation of form or not. We sense there might be, but when we actually start applying mindfulness to what we're doing and the emotions we're having and the changing nature of phenomena, we begin to see that form is not what we counted on it, and therefore this natural extraction begins to happen from overinvestment in objects. Now, when that happens, the sense of I, can still be very much in control, but we begin to sense that as I lose focus on objects, when it's no longer the compelling reason to live is to pursue objects, I get kind of ambiguous in myself. I'm not as defined. I'm only defined when I'm chasing an object. If I'm chasing an object, the I that's chasing is equally defined as the projection of the interpretation of what I'm chasing. When I'm not chasing objects, the sense of awareness grows, but the sense of I and the image that the I is begins to become less distinct. And then there is a sense of awareness arising. It's not mindful. It's not mindful anymore. It's not me doing it. In fact, it's the inverse of that process. It's when I'm no longer investing in trying to get something objective from the world that this awareness begins to show up in my absence. And it happens by accident. All of a sudden we're sitting and we think, oh wow, I'm just naturally aware. This just seems to be natural awareness. And we don't know how it happened. We didn't do anything. Something just fell away, and in the falling away of that, something else arose. And we begin to get an ongoing appreciation of how this whole system, figure ground, works. If you over-figurize life, you miss the ground. And so the ground begins to rise as we begin to be more self-diminishing. And I don't mean that in some kind of forced humility. I mean just realizing that I stand in the way of my own real spiritual progress. Now, this is very interesting, or it should be to us, because most of us want to carry this thing through, muscle our way through this whole project, and claim an enlightened sense of me at the other end. But it doesn't happen that way. It doesn't happen that way. So, you see, and you can't muscle your way through it all in this. It has to be done through insight, through understanding, wisdom, having seen. The beauty of awareness is that you see experientially. You see beyond concepts, beyond beliefs, beyond being told something. You actually see for yourself, and that has a different effect upon our psyche than a belief system or knowledge. And when you see something clearly, then you can't pretend that you didn't see it. And the tentacles that held that when you weren't seeing it falter when you are. The forcedness of wanting the world to be a certain way when you see it isn't that way. All that just becomes relinquished. Now, many of us overstay our mindfulness practice long beyond where we should. It's because we haven't been directed to look out for how you can extract true awareness from this process, how that true awareness arises from this practice. So what I try to do is I do that up front. And I let you stay in mindfulness, but you don't forget that there's something else there, because I remind you every week. But I'm not taking mindfulness away from you, because there's an evolution towards moving out of mindfulness, as well as an evolution of moving into awareness. And that's a maturity of wisdom. At a certain point, you just no longer want the world in the same way you did. Not because you want the formless, but because the world doesn't mean the same thing. You've seen through the veneer. You've seen through the polish of what the world used to mean to you. And there's a falling away of its burden. And there's a simplicity and an ease that comes. And when you're not trying to force yourself through life by making the world into what you want it to be, then what the world actually is begins to arise and be seen. Huh? And that's the movement from mindfulness to awareness. It's not to begrudge mindfulness at all. And so I'm not trying to have you work in any other way than where you are appropriately positioned. What you need to look at in yourself. One of the ways we keep ourselves in form is that we believe everything that happens within this form has a personal implication about it. All the states of mind mean something about me. My history means that I'm a form, that I'm an object. When history comes up, when the reaction takes place, I see the world in terms of subject and object because I'm so firmly in my subjectness. Right? Anger, loneliness, fear, grief keep me very subjective. And therefore, when I'm subjective, the world is objective. It can't be any other way. If you're subjective, the world's going to be objective. If you're looking at the world objectively, you're going to come from subject. Subject and object arise together. It has to be that way. Okay, so as we begin to look at the mind, third foundation, just this. It's just this. There's no me in it. Where is the me in any of this? Its me was added. It was like you had this perfect stew, and then you added cayenne. Ruined it. Perfect stew. It's perfect. There comes a carrot. There comes a potato, right? It's a perfect stew. It's nothing. We don't need to change anything in this movement of mind states. It's just that. There's nothing we need to claim. We don't need to reference anything. We don't need to bring our history to bear upon anything. We simply just need to let things be as they are. That then begins to divest the sense of subjectness. Remember, we're already working on objectness. Now we're divesting the energy of subjectness as well. And those two together, as they begin to, now the world begins to be seen as awareness. Now that's the medium through which you walk. And what is perceived within awareness is interconnectedness. Because you're not seeing objects. Doesn't it just fit logically that things would come together if they weren't being seen as separate? Well, that's what happens. And now the heart really does respond. You see, how can the heart respond to something that is artificially induced like an object? But it can arise naturally when you see things coming together interconnectedly, because that's the truth of things. And so the heart will respond to the truth of what it sees. And so that's why the heart's day, the heart's liberation, comes from the formlessness that we see. Yes.
I think a lot of you said something that sounds different. First, liberation and enlightenment, they seem pretty extreme. And right now, before you were talking that awakening is the beginning. I'm just curious if there's a difference ending. Is there a beginning of awakening and then you're fully always in bliss or something?
No, that's a good. It's fine. That's a good question, and it has to do with is awakening, I mentioned in one lecture or another, the beginning? Is that the same thing as I'm talking about enlightenment? Or what are all these different words that we hear? I don't use the word enlightenment so much because I think it's one of those words like God that's been so overinvested that we all have our idea of it. I like the word awakening because it has some sense of being taken over by consciousness as rather than being unconscious. We wake up to having been in stupor with just our thoughts and just our unconscious tendencies. So awakening seems to hold a better metaphor for the actual process itself. So I like awakening. Now, awakening, as I've mentioned before, is not that rare, actually. Many folks have some awakening within their life. Some less than half, but not that much, many less than half, have actually had an awakening experience at some time or other by some New York Times article I read many years ago. I'm not sure what they meant by awakening back then, but let us sense that there was a shift of figure ground, because that's really what awakening does. Most of us are firmly implanted within our skin. Everything seems to be very much contained within this fathom-long body. And it's like we don't have any other perspective outside of it. It feels like everything that we do is sort of done within this organism. And suddenly, at some point, you'll have an experience that will flip that around. Suddenly there will be a sense that the sense of the subject in the body is not the governing force in life. That which holds the body and the mind is the governing force. And that we, the sense of I, is being held at all times within something much larger. And that is actually realized. That's not an idea that we love to have and we pray to have. It is a realization. We awaken out of the dream state that we are contained within this organism. And then, for most people, and if there is someone in which this doesn't happen, I don't know of them, we come back into the body. And although we realize that, we're back where we were before we realized it, and we think, God, how did I get back in here? I really know this now. Now, why I call that the beginning is because now you're serious. You do know it. And yet, you also understand that there's another reality available, and that figure ground needs to be switched if this sense of self will ever be liberated from its own oppression. But we then have to learn how that's done, because the old way was I just forced it. I just got in there and did it manually. But we realize doing it manually keeps me within the form and expression of being a person. And that's not what I realized. I realized just the opposite, that I wasn't the person I thought I was. You see? So what am I supposed to do? I don't know what to do now. So there's a lot of awkwardness in that. And then as we get on track to how to have that work for us, we begin to get a sense that it happens more frequently. At first it kind of happens sometimes with a sense of drama, not always, but oh God, we get all excited and all that. But then it's kind of routine, and it doesn't fool you when the film, the veil redescends. It doesn't fool you, even because it's not like, okay, so there's there's some resistance I'm having in this moment that needs to be investigated and looked at. So I investigate and look at where the resistance is. I release that resistance, and then back they come. And so you start cleaning out the junk in the attic, you see? And full awakening, I suspect, is having a clean attic. Okay? So, does that make sense to you? So, okay, now listen to me. Do not get discouraged. Oh, I'm not one of the 30%. How am I ever? Don't do that. There's nothing wrong with anyone here. There's nothing wrong. Everyone has exactly the same potential. You have exactly the same potential as anyone who's ever lived. Right? Look at what's in front of your eyes. Look where you're resisting in life. Look where you're investing in life. Look where you want life to be something that it is not. And be honest with yourself about what it really is. Honesty is the gateway to liberation, to awakening. Not pretension. Not prayer. Oh, please God, save me. Honesty. Looking. Seeing. And that takes care of itself. So, if you feel discouraged, look at discouragement. What's going on here? Why is this feeling arising? Why do I feel so? Because that is holding us in place as a person, discouragement. You see? You always look at that which is closest, which is veiling, which is the veil, which is tinting the lens. Which is the last thing we want to look at because we want to be discouraged. Because what's the matter, Rodney? I'm so discouraged. Oh, now we get what we want through being a subject is attention, or whatever it is. I don't mean that in any kind of cruel, but we're looking at this thing now as a liberating path. Liberating path, we don't have time for pity. We don't have time for that. We've got to move on here. We're getting old. It's time to move on here. And so we have to clean up the messes, not just dwell and wallow in the messes. And wherever we're wallowing, we need to look at that. And if we need therapy, we get therapy. We need this, we get that. We use whatever means available to clean up the messes, not to stay in the mess. Yes, Krista.
Going back to your analogy of the perfect stew, and what you just said, like throwing cayenne pepper in the stew. I feel like, last week we talked about passive versus active meditation, and for me, active meditation, and when I identify something that I think I need to investigate, I throw pepper in the stew because I start insinuating my own intellectual analysis of it, and which is exactly where I'm trying not to go. So I tend to spend more time trying to do passive meditation than active.
Good.
I mess it up.
No, that's very good. Okay, do you want me to go from there? Okay, so she was talking about active and passive awareness, or active and passive discernment. Thank you. I'm the one that gave the talk. Active and passive discernment that I talked about last week. And she says when she gets very actively discerning, she starts mucking up the stew by an intellectual realization or an intellectual addition to what it is that she's seeing. And so she says passive discernment seems to be much more helpful to her at this particular time, right? Which is beautiful. Okay, so we know that passive discernment, you can feel the value of passive discernment with you. And you don't want to take this active discernment on until you feel really stable in how to do it without getting lost, without it just being washed away within the process. And so it doesn't help to cultivate and work with passive discernment for some time. You're not losing anything. But when we have a life that's very active, it's hard to bring passive discernment to a life that's like a waterfall. There's just a lot of things happening. And so we want to learn how to do this thing, but we want to learn it in a wise way, in a wise direction. So we want to take this thing apart very carefully. Okay, so as I mentioned last week as an example, I said, okay, now every one of us in the room quite likely is feeling some form of physical resistance or stress in this moment, in the body. Foundation 1. Just let's go to that area. Maybe it's the belly, the shoulders, maybe it's the jaw, maybe we're... Okay, so we just bring an attention to bear upon wherever it is that we feel stressed in this moment. And if you just look at it, not just in terms of the physical sensation of stress, but if you include what the mind is doing that forms that stress in that moment, you might feel, oh, I'm discouraged, or I'm trying too hard, or I don't know what he's saying, and it feels frustrating to me, and that's creating this kind of tension. And you can feel that. You can feel what the mind's involvement in that stress is. You get a sense of that? Let me just see one or two nods. Okay, good. Now we're into it. This is investigation. Oh, I see. So I'm discouraged. I'm just going to use that because I've been using that. Okay, I'm discouraged. Okay, so let me just focus in on the discouragement. Let me just not get lost in anything. Just let me focus in on being discouraged. And sometimes what will come out of that is a lot of history or memories, but we're not going to see those with a lot of interest. We're just going to feel them kind of moving through our view. And oh, my father, and when I was a child, all that, but we're experiencing it, not getting lost or dwelling or wallowing on it. And we're actually clearing out or cleaning up the sense of us that doesn't feel adequate, which is leading to the discouragement, which is leading to the stress, which is keeping me resistant, which is keeping me informed. And we did that just through curiosity. If you do that through defensiveness, you'll never get anywhere. You'll go, stress. Oh God, I'm going to show everybody that I'm not stressed. I've got to sit up straighter. How does this look in terms of calm? How am I doing? You see, this can't be met with defensiveness. It has to be met with interest, real interest. Where does real interest come from? Because that's where active discernment comes from. It comes from real interest. Real interest comes from having seen that you're not what you have taken yourself to be. That the mind is just the mind. It's just doing its thing. It has a configuration based upon what we have lived in our past. How we've lived the mind is what the mind has, how it's formed. And so what we do when we enter our psyche is we enter past formations of mind, the past, coming at us in all of its different disguises, like, the disguise of inadequacy that leads to discouragement and all of that. That's the past. That's how we've learned to be. So when we get interested in how we've learned to be in this life, we get interested in our pain. When you're interested in the pain will open to you like it never would if you just wanted to close it and not see it. That's how this thing opens. So it's so beautiful that the only thing that's closing this thing down is our not wanting to see it. If we want to see it, there's nothing stopping it from being shown to us. Like I was listening to this cosmologist who was saying, the last 20 years has revealed enormous there's enormous realization of the way the cosmos is and how it formed and how it originated. Just amazing. And he says he doesn't know whether he likes the fact that it's revealing its secrets so easily, or whether he would wish it would protect those secrets a little more, so there would be a little more something enigmatic. But that's what the universe does. Why would the universe, which is, as we are, want to hold its secrets, which should only happen from some kind of force that was a malevolent force? Why wouldn't it show us what it was if we wanted to see it? And if you want to see it, it will reveal itself to you. See, that's what's so beautiful about this thing. We go as fast as our own denial. And so some of us want to go as fast as we can be in control. Well, you can't be in control. So you won't go fast at all. You'll go backward, in reverse. It's like putting your car in reverse and then, okay, I'm going forward. You can't stay in control in this thing. If you could, then it would maintain your sense of personhood, which would maintain your sense of object, which would maintain the world as separate. You see? So we have to be willing, like it's the full Monty. Right? Everything has to be revealed here. That's what's so beautiful about it. I mean, there's some elegance in just the way it's configured that's just sometimes breathtaking. In its simplicity and in its revelation. Other questions or comments? Yes. Yes, sir.
When I feel like the barrier between self and surroundings dissolves, it's often sort of, we were talking about drama before. There's a drama. And sitting on the most beautiful mountainside I've ever sat on. I'm in the middle of a wave blasting me up the beach, or a family member is dying, and in those moments, I can go there, and I want to be able to go there in more ordinary moments. And that's what I'm trying to get in that sort of.
So he says that at certain extraordinary moments, there's a dropping of division within his psyche, but they're usually so extraordinary. They're like moments at the beach or in the mountaintop or when somebody's dying. And then there's a moment in which that sense of separation is temporarily subsides, and there's a feeling of things coming together. But he wants it to continue and to last. So you see, I just want to show something that's very important here, that you're approaching it from the wrong paradigm when you say you want it to last. You get it immediately, you see? Because what you saw was that you only get in the way of yourself. And that in those moments of awe and rapture, those moments of ease and tranquility that we've all experienced, what you are is absent. For whatever reason, there was a moment in which you released your need to have to protect yourself. And when there is a release of the need to have to protect yourself, there is what manifests intrinsically is revealed. And then you come out of that and say, how do I make that last? And that question sustains the divisiveness. Because you are taking it on as a personal strategy for you to resolve this issue. So you have to be very careful of the way you form questions, because the way you form questions will decide what strategy you use to ultimately discover the fruits of this thing. So the best you can do is say, I don't know how that happened. I do know that it wasn't a volitional will. Start there and say, okay, when it's not volitional, what does it look like when I'm not being volitional? When I'm not forcing? When I'm not trying? When I'm not using the force of my own intention to move this thing, but rather settle back completely into what is. Now you can feel that that's going to have some revelation. If you're pulling it forward, you're making the world into something in that effort to lean towards it. When you are totally upright and letting it be just what it is, it comes back into its original form. See? Because we're not forcing it to be other than what it is. So then you say, okay, so what if I just didn't do anything? And then this little voice inside of you says, don't do anything. That's like what I've been doing my whole life. That's not going to solve anything. So all this doubt comes in. Well, it doesn't work the other way either. So this time, a new intention arises within me. The intention to be apart rather than to be separate. And so I'm going to watch everything I do that creates my form of separation. I'm going to study it completely so I know how the ego works to create its own sense of separation. And so I'm going to study this sense of self. Get it down.
Kind of riffing off that last comment, I've lived in the world of form for a very long time, and that's kind of the only world that I know. And what I've seen in my own practice is I very quickly co-opt this back into a sense of form. And what I mean by that is I see the self looking for rewards, saying, oh, you talked about the paramis, I want those. Or what's this great sense of openness and connection and bliss, I want that. And the next thing you know is that it's just the self changing from wanting chocolate to something else. It's again, a better experience. And when that happens, it seems that all bets are off for me. And what I have seen is that it's something very special in the universe unfolding as it wants and as it is, and accepting that unfolding itself. And there's it's that sense of this should be different, or what was happening shouldn't be happening, and so I need more meditation, I need more therapy, I need more projects in my life. And so I guess my question is very much like what you were just talking about, is how is that orientation? There is a sense of being drawn to something that is not the self drawing you to it, and how do you know the difference, and how do you follow that kind of drawing?
So to summarize, basically he was talking about how the sense of self keeps co-opting and using the world to direct its intentions and strategies of spiritual liberation within the same format that it's always worked. And so let me just, it's a very interesting phenomenon, this sense of intentionality. You see, the reason why we have the intentionality of self predominates is because the self still doesn't feel whole in itself. There's still pain issues there that keeps it looking psychologically for an advantage to cover over the pain. And so I keep taking us back to our sense of personal pain, because unless that's cleaned up, the self is never going to have is never going to relinquish its neediness. It's never going to be satiated. The neediness is never going to be satiated. It's until that's satiated that the energy that went into the investment of being the image that it really wanted can go into the primary intention, which is the real urgency to know life for what it really is rather than what I can make it for myself. All right? That energy can't be faked. It can't be promoted. If we want to be a knower, then we will convert our spiritual journey into a knowledge. And then we will pontificate from that knowledge because we want to be a knower. And it won't satisfy a certain part of ourselves, but it will satisfy another part of ourselves, which is the part that wants other people to recognize us as a knower. You see, that's how it works. At some point, when you see the pain of wanting to be a knower can be addressed and cleaned up, then when you have a spiritual insight, it no longer goes into constructing a new knowledge base. It goes into a sense of inquiry and, whoever asked that question, an investigation. It's like, okay, what is going on here? It's not what is going on here so that I can have a better image. It's like, what's going on here, period. Why am I dividing myself out? I know that isn't true in this moment. So the energy gets converted into the primary intention of wholeness. And then it starts working dramatically towards that effect. It's so important to realize this. You can't get over any part of yourself. Spirituality is not a bypass from our psychological problems. You can't bypass any part of yourself. It's that very pain, suffering, that will keep us reforming into ourselves until it is seen and understood completely. So we go begrudgingly into it. Say, oh, I gotta, it's like going to a therapist's office, or I don't want to do this. It's like, we've all had that experience of. But you know that we used to do a grief group in hospice care, and the first time everybody would come and they would talk about their story of grief, and they would feel the pain, extraordinary pain of this recent loss. And then the next week we'd have another grief group, and maybe half those people would come. And I know the other half got a lot out of the first week, except when they started thinking of the pain they just experienced, they don't want to experience that pain again. So they're going to bypass it, right? The people that did show up somehow realized that it's through the pain that the healing takes place, right? That's what I'm hoping that most of us are beginning to realize. Because, well, we can go out and we keep coming back. And we find cute tricks, like to go out and to stay out for a while, like jhana practice. That I don't have to do a damn thing about my pain to do jhana practice. Go in there and have these, right? I don't have to have worked on myself, because these are just mechanisms of mind, inward experiences that seem to be different than ordinary, which truly they are, but they don't do anything to be able to actually bridge the gap between my pain so that the primary intention can be infused with new energy. Get this one down. This is the path that ends suffering, not the path that bypasses suffering. Yes, sir. What's the difference between motivation and intention? Well, there may not be any. Motivation is a broader sense. The way I'm using the primary intention of practice is a sense that we are drawn towards a kind of urgency of heart that longs for some sense of completion. We could also see that as the motivation for our practice, so in that sense that they are comparable words. But motivation in the way we normally mean it can have a lot of different motivations. There can be layers of motivation. There could be a personal layer of motivation and a psychological layer of motivation. There could be lots of different. And so, but when it comes to the primary intention, there's just one intention there. There's really, it all converts itself into this single driving force of heart that only wants this one thing. And it's not, when I say a driving force of heart, I don't mean it's a leaning force of heart. I don't mean it's in the sense of how we think of desiring sense of heart. It's just a compelling urge to know ourselves. Compelling urge to know ourselves.
I had sort of an interesting process after your last talk about looking at active and passive discernment. When I was meditating, I noticed, probably like we all do, that all my thoughts were even past or the future. And so I just thought, I was like, wow, I wonder why that is. And I looked and I thought, oh, when I'm thinking the past, I have the sense that I can predict the future. And when I'm dwelling in the future, I have this sense that I
करीब करीब वो समाप्ति हो गया, तो शायद एक आध कुछ बचा होगा। उस मुख्य बातें आ गई तो उनका अनुवाद कर देते हैं। हमने ये प्रश्नोत्तर का सेशन से शुरू में थोड़े रिफ्लेक्शन दिया और उदाहरण दिया, जो ऑप्टिकल इल्यूजन हम लोग कई बार देखते हैं कि एक पिक्चर होती है जिसको एक तरफ से देखें तो कुछ दिखता है, थोड़ा हिला के देखें तो कुछ दूसरा दिखता है। तो उन्होंने कहा उसी तरह से जो हमारे संसार को देखने का तरीका है उसको भी बदलना पड़ेगा। अभी हम एक तरह से देखते हैं जो कि जिसमें मैं हूँ और मुझे चीज़ें चाहिए, मुझे उन्हीं के अंदर सब कुछ सुख मिलता है, और अब मुझे दूसरा पैराडाइम देखना है जो कि फॉर्मलेसनेस का है, जो कि मैं जो सेल्फलेस अवेयरनेस है उसको या प्रेजेंस जिसको कहें वो उसको महत्व देता हूँ। उसके अंदर जो ऑब्जेक्ट्स आते हैं, जो चीज़ें हैं, उनके ऊपर मेरा ध्यान नहीं जाता उतना, क्योंकि जो मुक्ति है वो कभी भी चीज़ों में, फॉर्म्स में, रूप में नहीं हो सकती, क्योंकि वो हमेशा बदलता रहता है, अनित्य है, और वो मैं का अभाव भी एक विचार ही है, एक थॉट है। तो इसलिए वो कभी उस तरह से सेसिएशन, पूरा संतुष्टि नहीं मिल सकती, वो तो फॉर्मलेस रीजन में ही जाके मिलेगी। फिर उन्होंने साइंस का उदाहरण दिया, वो कोई आवश्यक नहीं इस बात की। पहला प्रश्न जो था वो था कि माइंडफुलनेस और अवेयरनेस में क्या फ़र्क है, जो कई बार हमको भी आवश्यक लगता है, दिक्कत होती है। तो उन्होंने कहा माइंडफुलनेस तो वो है जो हमको कल्टिवेट करना पड़ता है, जिसके लिए सती पठान की ऐसे बात है कि हम उसको कंटिन्यूसली माइंडफुल रहेंगे, हमेशा कोशिश करेंगे मैं जान रहा हूँ कि नहीं जान रहा हूँ। तो अब उसमें, उस प्रोसेस में आई का भाव हमेशा बना रहता है, और वो प्रैक्टिकली पॉसिबल ही नहीं है कि हमको कोई भी आदमी राउंड द क्लॉक माइंडफुल रहे। जबकि अवेयरनेस जो है वो एक नेचुरल एबिलिटी है। जब मैं का भाव छूट जाता है, कम कर देते हैं धीरे धीरे, तो अवेयरनेस अपने आप उभर के आती है और हमें चीज़ें स्वतः ही मालूम पड़ने लगती हैं कि हमें भी नहीं, वो अवेयरनेस का फंक्शन ही ये है कि वो इट बिकम्स अवेयर, चीज़ों को समझती है, जानती है। तो फिर हमको बीच में एफर्ट करने की ज़रूरत नहीं पड़ी। इनफैक्ट हमको अपने आप को दूर करना पड़ता है, रिलैक्स करके, शांत रह के, ताकि अपने आप जानकारी होती रहे। तो ये मेन फ़र्क है। वो कहते हैं कि अधिकतर लोग, हमने देखा है कि वो सती जो है माइंडफुलनेस की प्रैक्टिस में इतने लंबे समय, शुरू में इतना आवश्यक है, इतने समय तक लगे रहते हैं कि वो उसी में रस लेने लगते हैं और उससे बाहर निकलने की बात ही नहीं सोचते हैं। दूसरी एक बात महत्वपूर्ण उन्होंने जो कही कि हमको मुख्य बात यह है कि हमको ये मानना पड़ेगा कि मन में जो भी हमारे विचार स्वतः उठते हैं वो उनका कोई महत्व नहीं है, वो सब अनित्य हैं और कोई यूजलेस थॉट्स हैं, और उसके ऊपर हमें ध्यान नहीं देना चाहिए, उसको जान लेना चाहिए और जाने देना चाहिए। यही जो चित्तानुपश्यना का मूल मंत्र है कि अगर हम उसको सत्य, उन विचारों को सत्य मानते हैं और फिर उनसे उलझते हैं तो कभी भी हमारी मुक्ति की डायरेक्शन में नहीं मूव नहीं कर पाएंगे। दूसरा प्रश्न था कि अवेकनिंग और एनलाइटनमेंट शब्द क्या एक ही है? उन्होंने कहा मैं एक ही जैसे यूज़ करता हूँ। एनलाइटनमेंट इसलिए नहीं करता क्योंकि उसके कई अलग अलग जगह पे अलग अलग मतलब हैं। अवेकनिंग का मतलब ये है कि हम जैसे नींद में सोए हुए थे, जैसे जाग गए, उसी तरह जो हमारा एक भ्रम की स्थिति में जी रहे थे उससे हम जाग गए हैं और सत्य को जानने लगे हैं कि जो संसार है जैसा दिखता है वैसा नहीं है, और जो मैं का भाव इस शरीर के साथ जुड़ा हुआ है उससे बाहर निकलते हैं। ये केवल एक बुद्धि के स्तर की बात नहीं है, सचमुच में रियलाइजेशन होता है कि हाँ सचमुच में ऐसा ही है। और ये भी कहने लगे कि ऐसा एक्सपीरियंस बहुत बिरला नहीं है, कईयों को होता है, हल्का सा एक्सपीरियंस होगा लेकिन वो उसको महत्व नहीं देते और फिर छोड़ के फिर वापस उसी अपने पुराने ढर्रे में चले जाते हैं। और अगर हमारे में इंटरेस्ट है उस डायरेक्शन में जाने का, अल्टरनेटिव व्यू का, अगर हमें मालूम है कि कोई अवेयरनेस नाम की भी चीज़ है और जो कि सेल्फलेस है, जो सर्वव्यापी है, अनबॉर्न अनकंडीशनड है, जैसे अजान समझ तो बोलते हैं, तब हम उसकी ओर ध्यान देते हैं तो फिर हम उसको मैच्योर करने के लिए, उस अपनी इनसाइट को मैच्योर करने का अभ्यास करते हैं ठीक से। उसका अभ्यास के लिए मुख्य बात क्या है कि जो हमारी साइकोलॉजिकल मेस है हमारे मानस में, उसको दूर करना होगा, उसको हटाना होगा। तो वो कैसे हटेगी? जब हम साधना करेंगे उस तरह के जो हमारे अनुशय क्लेश हैं, दुख रुके हुए हैं, वो तीसरा प्रश्न जो था उसमें भी वही बात आ गई थी, जो हमारे अनुशय क्लेश झुके हुए हैं वो सामने आते हैं, उनको भी देखना है, उनको भी जाने देना है, उनको अपना समझ के उनके साथ उलझना नहीं है। तीसरे प्रश्न में उत्तर उन्होंने उस क्वेश्चन में ये था कि जब मैं केवल एक दृष्टा की तरह से देखती हूँ तो कोई दिक्कत नहीं होती, जब मैं उसमें इन्वेस्टिगेट करने लगती हूँ, डिसर्नमेंट की कोशिश करती हूँ तो विचारों में फंस जाती हूँ। तो उन्होंने बताया कि हाँ शुरू में तो वो ठीक है, आप सिर्फ देख रहे हैं, लेकिन इवेंचुअली आपको इन्वेस्टिगेट भी करना ही पड़ेगा, क्योंकि जो साइकोलॉजिकल इश्यूज हमारे अंदर सप्रेश किए हुए चीज़ें हैं, अनुशय क्लेश जिसे कहते हैं, वो हैं, तो उनको निकालने के लिए हमको उनको इन्वेस्टिगेट करके जाने के करके देखना पड़ेगा कहाँ कहाँ हम अटक रहे हैं, जो हमको फिर से दोबारा मैं के भाव में ले जाता है। चौथा सवाल था कि मुझे कभी कभी ऐसा लगता है सेपरेशन का भाव ख़त्म हो जाता है, अब मैं चाहता हूँ कि मैं उसी में बना रहा हूँ। तो उन्होंने कहा कि ये जो चाहना है कि मैं उसी में बना रहा हूँ और मैं उसमें जुड़ जाऊँ, यही अपने में एक प्रॉब्लम है, क्योंकि आप उसमें मैं का भाव आ रहा है। अगर आप उसको एक स्ट्रैटेजी की तरह रूप देखेंगे तो कभी भी संभव नहीं होगा। मैं के भाव को रिलैक्स करना होगा, आत्म भाव को समाप्त समझ के छोड़ना होगा, तभी ये संभव होगा, स्वतः ही होगा। आप चाहें कि अपनी स्ट्रैटेजी से उस तक पहुँच जाएँ, वो संभव नहीं है। फिर अगला सवाल था कि ये सेंस ऑफ सेल्फ जो बार बार आती रहती है, तो उन्होंने कहा कि इसके लिए वही इंटेंशनैलिटी की बात है, आपका इंटेंशन क्या है। अगर आप साधना इस तरह से कर रहे हैं कि इस बात से कर रहे हैं कि हाँ मैं जानना चाहता हूँ क्या हो रहा है और फिर जानूँगा तो फिर मैं लोगों को बताऊँगा, या फिर मैं देखता हूँ कि जो अधिक गहराई से अगर मैं अनात्म भाव की चलता हूँ तो जो अंदर अनुशय क्लेश में बाहर आते हैं तो बड़ा कष्ट होता है, मैं उनसे दूर हटना चाहता हूँ, तो फिर वो सेंस ऑफ सेल्फ अपने आप आती रहेगी। जब तक आप उसको केवल एक जानने वाला बनाना चाहते हैं, आपको अपना भाव, स्वयं का भाव बिल्कुल समाप्त करना होगा। और ये भी उन्होंने कहा कि ये जो अंतर मन में जो हमारे क्लेश छपे हुए हैं, उनको हम बाईपास नहीं कर सकते कि हम अनात्म को जान गए और उनको छोड़ देंगे, क्योंकि वो फिर हमको बात के खींच के वहीं ले जाते हैं। बार बार हमने एक बार अनुभव भी कर लिया, लेकिन फिर वो हमको खींच के आत्मभाव में ले जाएंगे। तो ये हमको इतनी क्षमता और इतनी एक्सेप्टेंस रखनी पड़ेगी कि जो भी होगा, जिस तरह की भी कठिनाई आएगी साधना में, ताकि जो भी विचार सामने आएंगे हम उनको समता से देखेंगे, बेचैन नहीं होंगे। तुम्हारा प्राइमरी इंटेंशन अगर ये है, तब धीरे धीरे ये जो सेंस ऑफ सेपरेशन है वो कम होती चली जाएगी, बार बार लौटना उसका कम हो जाएगा। जैसा मैंने लिखा था, हम इसके पुस्तिका की 32 पेज पे जो है वो हम पढ़ते रहते हैं बीच बीच में। ब्रह्म विहारों का जो अभ्यास का तरीका बताया गया है उसके अनुसार करते हैं। अभी इतने दिन प्रयास किया है तो आशा करते हैं कि हम सीधा ही शरीर के ऊपर ध्यान करके अनुभव कर सकते हैं। शरीर पे, हृदय वस्तु पे या चेस्ट के अंदर कहीं भी या कहीं पे भी शरीर में, और फिर उसको शरीर में व्याप्त करके सभी दिशाओं में मैत्री, करुणा, मुदिता, उपेक्षा का फैलाने का काम करेंगे, इसको व्याप्त करेंगे हर दिशा को। तो मैं एक एक लाइन पढ़ूंगा, फिर वैसे ऐसे हम साधना करते रहेंगे। अन्वयं चतुरपमान्योभासनं करोमसे मेत्ता सहगतेन चेतसा एकं दिशं फरित्वा विहरति। तो एक दिशा में मैत्री से भरे हुए चित्त से व्याप्त करते हैं। तो हम करते हैं, अभ्यास करते हैं इसका। अब तो हमें सब तरीके मालूम है कैसे मैत्री का प्रस्फुटन करना है। तो वो सब करके पहले अपने प्रति, अपने प्रियजनों के प्रति, आरक्षण देवताओं के प्रति, सभी प्राणियों के प्रति, वो सब मन में करके थोड़ी देर तक, फिर शरीर को देख के फिर उसको रेडिएट करते हैं। सहगतेन चेतसा एकं दिशं फरित्वा विहरति। तथा द्वितीयं, तथा तृतीयं, तथा चतुर्थं। इति ऊर्ध्वमथो तिर्यं सब्बदि सब्बत्तताय सब्भावन्तं लोकम्। मेत्ता सहगतेन चेतसा विपुलेन महगतेन अपमानेन अवीरेण अव्यापज्येन फरित्वा विहरति। मैं एक दिशा को मैत्री चित्त से व्याप्त कर विहार करता हूँ, इसी प्रकार दूसरी, इसी प्रकार तीसरी, इसी प्रकार चौथी, ऐसे ही ऊपर और नीचे, आड़े तिरछे, चारों ओर, सर्वत्र अपने को एवं सभी को, सभी लोगों को मैं विपुल, महान, असीम, निर्वैर, द्वेष रहित, मैत्री संपन्न चित्त से व्याप्त कर विहार करता हूँ। थोड़ी देर ऐसा अभ्यास करते हैं। अब इसी प्रकार करुणा ब्रह्म विहार का अभ्यास करेंगे। करुणा के जो उचित आलम्बन हैं उनको मन में लाके ख्याल रखेंगे कि करुणा के आलम्बन दुखी लोग होंगे, उसको आके मन में व्यथा नहीं जागे, ये देखें कि हम उनके दुख मुक्ति की कामना करेंगे, तो इसलिए मन में व्यथित ना हो। करुणा सहगतेन चेतसा एकं विसंफरित्वा विहरति, तथा द्वितीयं तथा तृतीयं तथा चतुर्थं इति ऊर्ध्वम् अधोतिर्यं सब्बति सब्बत्तताय सब्भावन्तं लोकं। करुणा सहगतेन चेतसा विपुलेन महगतेन अपमानेन अवेरेन अव्यापज्येन परित्वा विहरति। मैं एक दिशा को करुणा चित्त से व्याप्त कर विहार करता हूँ, इसी प्रकार दूसरी, तीसरी, चौथी, ऐसे ही ऊपर और नीचे, आड़े तिरछे, चारों ओर, सर्वत्र अपने को एवं सभी को, सभी लोगों को मैं विपुल, महान, असीम, निर्वैर, द्वेष रहित, करुणा संपन्न चित्त से व्याप्त कर विहार करता हूँ। प्रैक्टिस लाइक दैट। थोड़ी देर तक ऐसे ध्यान करते हैं, मैं करुणा की तरंगों को चारों ओर व्याप्त करते हैं, ध्यान करके दुखी लोगों का। अपार दुख इस समय सारे विश्व में, हमारे भारत में, हमारे शहर में। अब मुदिता की ओर मन ले आते हैं, मुदिता ब्रह्म विहार का, उसका अपने जो आलम्बन है वो एक सुखी प्राणी, सुखी पुरुष, महिला, सुखी स्वस्थ वातावरण, सुखी पशु पक्षी, या कोई और बात जिससे चित्त में प्रसन्नता जागे, उसका आलम्बन बना के चित्त को प्रसन्नता की तरंगों से भरते हैं, मानस को, शरीर को। मुदिता सहगतेन चेतसा एकं दिशं फरित्वा विहरति तथा द्वितीयं तथा तृतीयं तथा चतुर्थम् इति उद्धम् अधोतिरियं सब्बदी सब्बत्तताय सब्बावन्तं लोकम् मुदिता सहगतेन चेतसा विपुलेन महद्गतेन अपमानेन अवेरेन अव्यापज्येन परित्वा विहरति। मैं एक दिशा को मुदित चित्त से व्याप्त कर विहार करता हूँ, उसी प्रकार दूसरी, इसी प्रकार तीसरी, इसी प्रकार चौथी, ऐसे ही ऊपर और नीचे आड़े तिरछे चारों ओर सर्वत्र अपने को एवं सभी को, सभी लोगों को मैं विपुल महान असीम निर्वैर निर्देश रहित मुदिता संपन्न चित्त से व्याप्त कर विहार करता हूँ। थोड़ी देर ऐसे विहार करते हैं हम मुदित चित्त से। शरीर में भी मुदिता की तरंगे फैलती हुई सारे वातावरण में। कभी कभी किसी को चेस्ट के बीच में ज़्यादा अच्छी फीलिंग होती है, हृदय वस्तु पे नहीं होती, तो वहाँ पे भी ध्यान करके वाइब्रेशन को सारे शरीर में व्याप्त किया जा सकता है। अब उपेक्षा ब्रह्म विहार, उपेक्षा का आरंभन कर्म सिद्धांत अपने मन में उसकी पाठ करते हैं और उपेक्षा प्रस्फुटित करने का अभ्यास करते हैं। उपेक्षा सहगतेन चेतसा एकं दिशं फरित्वा विहरति तथा द्वितीयं तथा तृतीयं तथा चतुर्थम् इति उद्धम् अधोतिरियं सब्बदी सब्बत्तताय सब्बावन्तं लोकम् उपेक्षा सहगतेन चेतसा विपुलेन महद्गतेन अपमानेन अवेरेन अव्यापज्येन फरित्वा विहरति। मैं एक दिशा को उपेक्षा चित्त से व्याप्त कर विहार करता हूँ, इसी प्रकार दूसरी, इसी प्रकार तीसरी, इसी प्रकार चौथी, ऐसे ही ऊपर और नीचे आड़े तिरछे चारों ओर सर्वत्र अपने को एवं सबको, सभी लोगों को मैं विपुल महान असीम निर्वैर द्वेष रहित उपेक्षा संपन्न चित्त से व्याप्त कर विहार करता हूँ। थोड़ी देर सारे शरीर में उपेक्षा की तरंगे व्याप्त कर उनको फैलाते हैं सारे वातावरण में, याद करते हुए उपेक्षा का आलम्बन सम्मादिट्ठी, अनित्यबोध, सर्वे सत्ता सुखी होन्तु, सर्वे होन्तु चखेमिनो, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा किञ्चित् पापमागमः, मा किञ्चित् शोकमागमः, मा किञ्चित् दुःखमागमः। भवतु सर्वमङ्गलं, रक्षन्तु सर्वदेवता, सर्वबुद्धानुभावेन सदा सुखी भवन्तु ते। भवतु सर्वमङ्गलं, रक्षन्तु सर्वदेवता, सर्वधर्मानुभावेन सदा सुखी भवन्तु ते। भवतु सर्वमङ्गलं, रक्षन्तु सर्वदेवता, सर्वसङ्घानुभावेन सदा सुखी भवन्तु मे। सम्मा सम्बुद्धो भगवा बुद्धं भगवन्तं अभिवादेमि। साक्षातो भगवता धम्मं नमस्सामि। सुपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावक संघो संघं नमामि। That's right.